Pixar releases Elio with grand ambitions. By Monday morning, the studio faces its worst nightmare. The lowest opening in Pixar's 30-year history. A director forced out, a film rewritten, an entire vision erased. But the real story isn't about bad box office. It's about a studio that forgot who it was. And the $250 million disaster that proved it. Every Pixar failure tells a story, but Elio's numbers reveal something darker. The math is brutal. Elio costs at least $150 million to produce. Some insiders claim over $200 million. Marketing added another $100 million. Total investment, $250 million minimum. Opening weekend, $21 million domestic, $14 million international. For perspective, Pixar's previous low was Elemental at $29.6 million. Even The Good Dinosaur opened to $39 million back in 2015. Elio didn't just underperform, it collapsed. The film needed $375 million to break even. By week 2, it barely crossed $78 million globally. The damage was done. Pixar's golden reputation lay in pieces. But here's what makes this fascinating. Critics loved it. 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences gave it a 91% score and an A cinema score. Everyone who saw Elio praised it. The problem? Almost nobody saw it. This wasn't a quality issue. This was something else entirely. Something that started years before Elio ever hit theaters. Disney made a decision in 2020 that seemed smart at the time, but it will haunt them for years. March 2020, COVID-19 shuts down theaters worldwide. Disney responds by sending Onward to Disney Plus after just 2 weeks. Then Soul goes straight to streaming, then Luca, then Turning Red. The strategy boosted Disney Plus subscriptions. Bob Chapek called it a win, but Pixar's creative chief Pete Docter saw the trap. We've trained audiences that these films will be available on Disney Plus. He told Variety. It's more expensive for a family of 4 to go to theaters when they know they can wait. The damage was real. When Lightyear hit theaters in June 2022, it bombed with a $226 million globally. Elemental noted to the worst debut in Pixar history. Families had been conditioned. Why pay $60 to $80 at theaters when you can wait 3 months for Disney Plus? Inside Out 2 broke the cycle in summer 2024. $1.69 billion worldwide. The highest grossing animated film ever. Disney promoted it everywhere. The message was clear. This is a theatrical event. But Elio got the opposite treatment. Disney assumed audiences would show up because it said Pixar on the poster. They were wrong. The streaming conditioning had already taken root. Audiences looked at Elio and thought, I'll watch it at home. And Disney's marketing did nothing to change their minds. Summer 2023, a test screening in Arizona. What happened next tore the film apart. Adrian Molina had a vision. The Coco co-director conceived Elio as a deeply personal story about feeling like an outsider, about finding your people, about identity. Sources describe early footage. Elio collecting trash on beaches and turning it into fashion. His trash on show for a hermit crab. Bedroom posters hinting at a male crush. A character who loved environmentalism and self-expression. Then came the Arizona test screening. The audience enjoyed the film, but when asked who would pay to see it in theaters, not a single hand went up. Studio executives panicked. Molina screened his cut for Pixar leadership. CEO Pete Docter allegedly gave harsh feedback. Multiple sources described Molina as hurt by the conversation. By August 2024, Molina was off the project. Madeline Sharafian and Dom Shi took over as co-directors. The film was reworked extensively. The queer-coded elements were removed. Elio's love of fashion was cut. His character was made more masculine. The trashy on show disappeared. The bedroom posters vanished. Former Pixar assistant editor Sarah Legatich, part of the studio's LGBTQ group PixPride, told The Hollywood Reporter, I was deeply saddened and aggrieved by the changes. She described an exodus of talent after the new director shared their first cut. Another insider put it bluntly, suddenly you remove this big He pees about identity, and Elio becomes about totally nothing. The version in theaters is far worse than Adrian's best vision. America Ferrera, originally cast as Elio's mother, exited the project. Zoe Saldana replaced her, now voicing his aunt instead. The film that reached theaters in June 2025 was radically different from what Molina intended, and it showed. Disney spent $100 million on marketing, but you probably didn't know Elio existed. Compare two campaigns. Inside Out 2, characters at the movie theaters, massive TV spots, billboard takeovers, social media everywhere. Disney made it impossible to miss. Elio, radio silence. The first teaser dropped in June 2023, 2 years before release. It showed a completely different film, different tone, different character personalities, different plot points. When the final trailers arrived, audiences were confused. What was this movie actually about? Disney barely promoted it. Zoe Saldana, an Oscar winner, was in the cast. Most people didn't know. Jamil and Brad Garrett also stared. Again, crickets. Industry analyst Polder Garbillion said, Disney cut losses and saved money on the marketing campaign. One look at the numbers proves it. Elio released June 20th, 2025, right into brutal competition. How to Train Your Dragon's live-action remake dominated. 28 years later, captured horror fans. Lilo and Stitch live-action version loomed. Elio had no hook, no star power being promoted, no unique angle. The trailers felt generic. Space adventure with cute aliens. That's it. Compare that to Inside Out 2, where Disney emphasizes the new emotions and the universal experience of puberty. Everyone understood the stakes immediately. Elio's marketing asked audiences, why should you care? And Disney never provided an answer. Former Pixar artists expressed frustration online. One asked, I'd love to ask Pete Docter and Disney executives whether they thought the rewrite was worth it. Would they have lost this much money if they simply let Adrian tell his story? The lackluster campaign became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Disney assumed Elio would fail, so they barely promoted it, which ensured it would fail. The sequel strategy is working, but at what cost? The message was clear. Inside Out 2, $1.69 billion. Toy Story 4, $1.07 billion. Incredibles 2, $1.24 billion. And Finding Dory, $1.03 billion. All sequels, all massive hits. Meanwhile, original films struggle. Elemental barely reached $496 million after a slow start. Luca and Turning Red went straight to streaming. Lightyear bombed. Bob Iger stated the strategy plainly in February 2024. We're leaning into sequels and franchises. Given what it takes to get people out of homes, leaning on familiar properties is smart. The upcoming slate confirms it. Toy Story 5 in 2026, Incredibles 3 in development, Coco 2 announced, and Zootopia 2 coming. Pixar, once the champion of original storytelling, is now chasing nostalgia. Well, here's the paradox. Pixar built its empire on originality. Toy Story, Finding Nemo, Up, WALL-E, Inside Out. Films that took risks, that trusted audience to embrace the unknown. Now the studio's terrified of new ideas. Award-winning animator Jason Donati told Northeastern University, if you never take a risk, you just hit singles all day. The studios willing to swing the bat will be the winners. He pointed to Flow, a wordless Lavinian film made for a fraction of Pixar's budget. It won the 2025 Oscar for Best Animated Feature over Inside Out 2. Not because Flow was bigger, but because it was braver. Meanwhile, Elio cost over $200 million and became Pixar's worst opening ever. The irony is devastating. Pete Docter sparked controversy in 2024 by saying Pixar should make the most relatable films possible. Many interpreted this as moving away from diverse characters and personal stories like Turning Red and Luca. The Elio situation seems to confirm those fears. A deeply personal story about identity was sanitized into a generic space adventure. And it failed anyway. So where does Pixar go from here? The studio faces an impossible choice. Play it safe with sequels and lose its creative soul, or take risks on originals and face potential financial disaster. But maybe the real lesson is simpler. Elemental proves original stories can work. It reached $496 million through word of mouth mouth after Disney gave up on it. Inside Out 2 proves audiences will show up for quality films if you believe in them. Elio failed not because it was original. It failed because Disney didn't believe in the story it was telling. $250 million spent, Pixar's worst opening ever, a studio at a crossroads. Three things killed Elio: pandemic-era streaming habits that trained families to wait, creative compromise that stripped away the film's soul, and marketing so weak it felt like surrender. The tragedy: everyone who saw Elio loved it. The film worked, but almost nobody saw it, because Disney created the failure they feared. Elio didn't fail because audiences rejected original stories. It failed because the studio rejected its own story first. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's biggest disasters, because every failure teaches us something about the industry we love.